Welcome back, my friends. Thanks again for joining us for another episode as we take a few minutes out of our day in God's Word. Glad you're with us. A little more low-tech today as I'm recording this from our backyard. And we're glad you're with us as we're just examining and still working through the book of 1 Samuel today. If you're following along with us, we are in 1 Samuel chapter 24. We can be in verse 9 here in just a moment. The last episode we dealt with where David had a chance to eliminate Saul, but due to the recognition that Saul really was God, the position Saul held as king was God's anointed, David chose not to do that. Now what we're going to look at, go back a few verses from the last time, we're going to look at David's plea to Saul and then Saul's response. But then I'm going to finish how David handles Saul's response. So verse number 9 of chapter 24, the Bible says, "And David said to Saul, 'Why do you listen to the words of men who say, indeed, David seeks your harm? Look, this day your eyes have seen that the Lord delivered you into my hand in the cave, and someone urged me to kill you. But my eyes spared you when I said, I will not stretch out my hand against the Lord, for he is the Lord's anointed. Moreover, my father, see the corner of your robe in my hand. For in that I cut off the corner of your robe and did not kill you. Know and see that there is neither evil nor rebellion in my hand, and I have not sinned against you, yet you hunt my life to take it. The Lord judge between you and me, and let the Lord avenge me on you, but my hand shall not be against you. As a proverb of the ancient said, wickedness proceeds from the wicked, but my hand shall not be against you. After whom has the king of Israel come out? Whom do you pursue? A dead dog, a flea? Therefore let the Lord be judge, and judge between you and me, and see and plead my case, and deliver me out of your hand." So David makes this plea, and simply he's using facts. He's saying, obviously, he's really, to an extent, giving Saul the benefit of the doubt. He's saying, other people have convinced you that I'm trying to kill you. Instead of it just being all you wanting to do wrong, you believe the view of other people, which is not true. And he goes, and he's really, you can judge, let God judge between me and you. We both are going to have an opinion. It's both going to have what we have to say. And you may not necessarily believe me, but I can tell you that if I really want to do you harm, I had a chance. And he explains the chance, and he goes on from there. And really what he does is he uses facts. He pleads his case with facts. And one of the things that I've learned that you can't really go beyond facts. Now, I will tell you something that we're going to look at in a minute. You can use facts, you can plead facts, they're your best option, they're really the only answer you have. But unfortunately, there are going to be some situations that no matter how many facts you use, it doesn't change how people are going to respond to you. Some people are so convinced that they're right and you're wrong, or they're right in general, that no amount of facts are going to change that. Now, how do you say, Pastor, how do you see this in this realm? Well, you're only going to see that in kind of the last verse here. You can see this in the fact that David's exile does not end here. Saul continues to want to kill David. David still finds himself in exile. And so, we can just know from, if you know anything about this passage moving forward, while Saul, to an extent, in a moment, is going to make it look like that he has moved on and was admitted it's wrong, it's not necessarily the case long term. So let's go ahead and look at Saul's response. Verse 16. "So it was, when David had finished speaking these words to Saul, that Saul said, 'Is this your voice, my son David?' Saul lifted up his voice and wept, and he said to David, 'You are more righteous than I. For you have rewarded me with good, whereas I have rewarded you with evil. And you have shown this day how you have dealt with me well with me. For when the Lord delivered me into your hand, you did not kill me. For if a man finds his enemy, will he let him get away safely? Therefore may the Lord reward you with good for what you have done to me this day. And now I know indeed that you shall surely be king, and that the kingdom of Israel shall be established in your hand. Therefore swear now to me by the Lord that you will not cut off my descendants after me, and that you will not destroy my name from my father's house.' So David swore to Saul, and Saul went home, and David and his men went up to the stronghold." So the one thing you find intriguing in here is Saul makes an obvious confession. He says, obviously you've proven to me you're not an enemy, because would an enemy see somebody and let him live? Would an enemy not take care of it? That's really what you see. Saul is really coming to a realization here. Now, I'm going to give you my opinion of something. I can't prove this motive or this thinking from the passage we read. But you ever find somebody who is really quick to confess when they've been proven wrong? They're not that they're acknowledging or taking responsibility for their action. They're just acknowledging they've been caught. All right, so he's been caught. He had a chance to be, if David had a chance to kill him, David didn't. Saul takes the obvious. If I really was your enemy, you would have killed me. Saul works through those things. When it's all said and done, he acknowledges, he says, you are right, I appreciate this, I appreciate your character, you are truly king. He even comes back and does ask for the same commitment that Jonathan did. Now again, he says, will you not cut off my family? Again, why would he do this? Well, David, you understand, it comes down to dynasty. Saul's son should have been the next king, and from there and there. And there could have been a battle. There could have been a war internally when it came down to the idea of if someone didn't want David to be king, they could have looked for a descendant of Saul to be king. And the people could have gone against God's will and just followed after what they wanted. And so some kings, rightfully, in history might have done this, and I'm not saying rightfully, but in their mind, for fear of losing position, would have found any descendant to the former king, would have killed them so they could have never vied for the throne. Well, Saul was fully aware that this was the custom and would make sense that David would have done this, and it wouldn't surprise me if Saul would have thought, man, if this was me, I would have done that. I mean, we know that for the longest time, and probably at this point still, David's family is in hiding right now from Saul because they're afraid Saul would have done the exact same thing. So that's what you see here. Saul's pleading this, and so David gives the same promise he gave to Jonathan, that not only will he not destroy his family, he will take care of them, which we will learn later he does. But here's what I want you to see. I want you to catch one section. They walk through this. He says all these flowery words and these right words. But then he gets to verse 26. David swore to Saul. Saul went home. David and his men went up to the stronghold. You see, what's the point? Notice David didn't go home. Notice David didn't follow. Remember, David was Saul's son-in-law. His wife lived in the palace. If David were going to go home, and he would have gone home with Saul, I believe that David was not fully convinced that what Saul said was true. Saul was a good speaker, obviously. Saul convinced other people, but David was not convinced. David goes back. Maybe David was going back to the stronghold because he was looking to see if this is true. We're going to give it a little bit of time. I don't know. All I know is he did not go back. And sometimes you have to use some wisdom, okay? Maybe let time prove the comment. All I can say is this. David did what was right, and it ultimately came back to bless him and honor him from God. Saul ultimately reneged in everything he said here. And I think David might have thought that. And so what happens when you're trying to reconcile with somebody, right? What happens? Well, you want to, Matthew 18, you go to them, you confront them as graciously as you can. You've done your part. If they confess, you've gained a brother. Now, I've had people tell me this, well, I don't know if I can trust them right away. Can I tell you that while a relationship can be healed, forgiveness can be given, trust has to be earned. So when someone's hurt, you're going to have to give them time to trust. If you've hurt somebody and you say, why won't they just accept it? Why won't they just forget about it? Well, first of all, it's impossible to forget about it. But even if they're forgiving you, you have to re-earn that trust. And so my challenge to you is if you're in a situation where maybe you're the one that's been the offender, you've offended somebody, my challenge to you is do your part to earn your trust. Husband, wife, child, father, mother, if you have been the offender, do your best to earn their trust back. It's on you, I believe, to do that. We offer forgiveness, but trust is something that I believe needs to be earned. And may that be something we learn from this. David went back waiting to earn the trust, to see if Saul would earn it. Ended up not being the case. And but I challenge us in that all we can do is our part. We can speak our truth. We can do right, speak the truth. I guess not our truth, speak the truth of what we know to be right, and then wait and see what God does with it. Well, we appreciate the privilege you've given us to be part of your day. Stick with us as we jump into the next chapter of 1 Samuel next time. Hope it's an encouragement and hope that this be a help to you. Hope to look forward to seeing you next time.